Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the next episode of the Grow2Market podcast. And I'm excited today that I'm joined by Dariia Panchenko, who is the SEO and community specialist and manager at Fractional Teams. So thanks for joining us today, Dariia.
Hi, Tim. Thank you.
No problem. So it's great to have you with us. And I suppose in that introduction, people might wonder SEO and community. That's surely two different things, right? They're quite different things. And I suppose one of the things we'd love to hear from you today is just a little bit about those two worlds, how they're perhaps interrelated. But maybe we could start off with talking about how perhaps SEO particularly has changed over the last maybe couple of years that you've been involved in this area.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because when I started working in marketing at first, I was into the community work, and I never thought that I will do something SEO related. It was something new to me, something completely where I didn't feel so confident, and because there are so many things that change so fast, especially now with AI coming into the market, and with the so many tools uh, that are help us optimize tasks. And I think this is evolving and changing so fast that it's just so hard to keep track of things. So, but I was quite interested in how to explore things in this and this uh, and I was just very interested how all this works. So I started exploring. Um, I went to see how different tools work and what in general different terms, different metrics. Some of them, and then I just realized that some of them really matter. Some not. Some are not so important. And I think over past 2 years, so many things changed in SEO and how it works, uh, especially with the AI and so many AI articles and content in general, and everyone is using this obviously. So right
It's a
now, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's sorry to interrupt. I was going to say it's a changing world, isn't it? And I suppose the the old days where SEO was all about stuffing keywords and things like that, and chasing lots of links and not caring too much about the quality. I guess that changed quite a few years ago with Google enhancing some of their algorithms and the Penguin update and all those different things that we all know about. But you come into this modern age now, and it's a lot different. I mean, do you think that old world of link building is dead now? Do you think that's finished?
Well, I think there are a lot of conversations that the old ways of how people were trying to get rank higher in SERPs is not so relevant right now. And especially with link building, I think a lot of people say that it's now basically dead. But I'm very convinced that some of the those old ways still work, especially when when you're building something new, completely new, and you're trying to just, um, I don't know, just to show what you've got,
Yeah, yeah.
and that you need to gain some authority there. So I think some of the methods are still working, and it's very silly to deny.
Yeah, I know
Right.
what you mean. It's like you hear some of these people and see what they write on LinkedIn, and they use these clickbait headlines like "search is dead," and things like that. It kind of feels like they're probably selling a course. That's the first thing they're probably doing on LinkedIn. But if they're not selling a course, they're probably trying to sell some marketing service that they think they've got some competitive advantage by placing themselves as a LLM optimizer or a AI optimizer rather than a search optimizer. But I guess what you're saying is that actually some of those things that used to matter still matter, I guess.
Yeah, so true. We can even compare it with the email outreach or sales calls. Some people are so skeptical that people don't pick up phone anymore. They're like so into messaging and not being bothered that they just won't pick up or open an email. But that's not true. I think those things still work, and I think sometimes this is the most unexpected way to receive leads. Sometimes you rely so much on those new trends that you're just surprised how old things are still working and bringing your results.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very convinced that some of the old tactics working, and I even have interesting insight to share because sometimes I just, I think it happened a week ago. I was browsing for some article related to, um, uh, I guess I wanted to find a book, and that was somehow related to how people avoid small talks and are trying to find more deep conversations. And I bumped into an article which I found so funny and interesting, and then I looked at the date, and it was dated back to 2007, which, I thought I just, for a second, I stopped and I started thinking about how people used to write, how they actually express what they think, and that just I've stopped for a second and I started thinking about how the content creation is so much different now that people with all those AI tools, people are not expressing themselves anymore. They're just doing things to they're trying to rank higher. But the truth is, um, there are so so much less quality content that is expressing your experience, that is actually showing your experience, your expertise, what you think, what you know. And I think this is this is becoming a huge problem now.
Yeah,
That
I
people are
agree.
constantly chasing how to rank higher, how to get into top 10 and things like that, but they're not caring about the quality and the value they're bringing, which I think back back like 10 years ago, I think that was the key factor to rank high, and it still is. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's interesting because this came up actually on our last podcast we had where we talked to Treff Davis and he was talking about writing because he's a writer as well as doing a million other things. And he's talking about, you know, how some of the ways of doing business that is about captivating someone's imagination and entertaining them. They're important in writing. They're also important in real life and how things like business networking is not dead. You know, everyone thinks that after COVID we moved to an online Zoom only world but the fact is that a lot of business is being done in face to face networking and I think it's a similar type of situation with copywriting and content is people don't want to just hear the same thing over and over again. They want to feel a connection with who they're meeting or what they're reading. And And it's funny, you mentioned about that article from so long ago, before AI in its current form was even really imagined, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and it's quite interesting that these days we also try to get the AI to do things that it really isn't naturally capable of doing. We tell it not to use certain words because they sound too much like an AI. I mean, it just sounds like a crazy thing. This is what we have to tell the AI. Um, but I guess to your point that um, the idea that content that we want to create, it has a purpose, and that purpose is to incite some action to get the reader to do something or feel something. And I guess it might be that we want them to click a button. It might be that we want them to read more about a product or a service, or it might be that we want them to understand the difference between product A and product B. But ultimately, we want the reader to do something. So yeah, I guess having that human element is really important. There's one thing getting the visitor to your page, I suppose, and that's where ranking obviously is very important, and things like the search engine result page, making sure that it's well laid out and attractive. But once they get onto your page, if the content they're reading is rubbish, they're you probably just lost that opportunity, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I think in the coming years, this will become even more important because right now, when you search for something, um, I noticed that often in those top tens, I get some LinkedIn articles, and they're so obviously AI written, and I think this is going to change in the coming years, and because otherwise, if AI is trained on what we've got in searches, and if it will keep on being trained that way, and we will get more and more things that are was written by AI and then trained with trained on this. This will become just so robotic and just basically nonsense. So I think in the upcoming years, Google and other search engines will just focus on something that is written by humans and for humans,
Yeah,
because this will just not make sense at all. It will it will be trained on basically what it has written. So
yeah. No, I know what you mean, and if we keep training it on the same content, yeah, we're going to end up with everything sounding the same eventually.
but yeah.
There isn't going to be any kind of variation between contents on one website and another, because they're all learning from each other. And it's interesting as well. And I think this goes back to your point about um, the old ways still being relevant, and they're not old ways; they're still modern ways, but they've stood the test of time, I suppose. And the idea that the AI is trained in a particularly special way. It's not that different really than a search engine. I mean, it's crawling information on websites. It's able to construct things and use logic and be able to infer certain things from what it reads. But ultimately, people who are using AI for search, someone who goes and types into ChatGPT, I'm looking for a VoIP provider uh, for a legal company in the United Kingdom. The results that come back are not that dissimilar from the results that come back if you type that into Google. And interestingly, I found as well with ChatGPT and Perplexity and all of those different platforms, they've started to be a little bit more transparent in terms of showing you their sources, almost like to kind of verify, like, this is where I've got the information from. I'm not making it up. And it's
And
interesting that the sources are the same types of places that we've traditionally used to try and improve SEO. I
really?
Would you agree with that? Or maybe that's changed a little bit over time?
Yeah, I think that, because all of those discussions that, AI give give us, wrong facts, wrong information sometimes, they started to focus on something that, um first of all, I think they, started being more focused on discussions from different places like Reddit and Quora, because this is this is the place where people often bring their expertise and they're not trying to pitch anyone. They're just trying to say what they think, share their experience, and this is this is probably places where those discussions are happening, and it often like facts. It's not articles, it's not like long reads, it's just the facts that people want to bring. So I think um now all those models are taking into consideration all those discussions that are happening in the different platforms.
Yeah.
It's those are often, as I said, facts rather than assumptions.
Yeah, and sometimes communicated very directly, I
And
guess.
yeah, people are direct there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think sometimes maybe even, some might say in a bit of a toxic way, occasionally with Reddit in some forms, and yeah, you almost need to have, um, nerves of steel and an ability not to be offended by if you're going to work on Reddit. I think it's quite an important attribute to have. But it is interesting because you do find stuff, you learn stuff on Reddit. I mean, it's not like X where what you're learning is very
Yeah,
often false information. They try and talk about it being community sourced news, but the community is quite often a bunch of possibly state sponsored bots and people like that spreading propaganda. And I guess at least in Reddit, you generally there are bots like there are everywhere, of course, but you generally get more people who have actually thought about or researched something, and therefore they've got something new to share that maybe other people don't know.
and I think the level of moderation on Reddit is, like, so high that it just we can't even compare it to X. It's
That's
and
true. Yeah.
by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but, often, when I'm typing a request either in ChatGPT or Perplexity in sources, I often get Reddit, but never X. I think that's a sign.
That's interesting, actually. Do you know, I haven't even thought of that, and I didn't really notice that, to be honest. But that's a good spot, actually. Yeah, I suppose it becomes quite well trusted, the sources on Reddit. And yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. I always think X is almost like it's sort of become a bit of a almost like a monarchy. You've got this kind of person ruling over the top of it, and they create the illusion of there being some kind of fair moderation, but really it's just it's a bit of a mouthpiece. But in Reddit, at least, there might be lots of little monarchies or dictatorships in each of the subreddits, but generally, I think in most subreddits, I think the good thing is that um, the moderators, if they were really bad and if they were really only presenting one side of the story or allowing a lot of misinformation to happen. I think the good thing about Reddit is people would just leave the subreddit, I guess.
I
So
I think, the moderator would get kicked out actually, like, from the Reddit.
that's true. Yeah, it's sort of a revolution, sort of French Revolution on their hands. There'd be the
Well, there are some, like, really toxic subreddits, I think, where you can actually express what you think,
mm,
or you need to think how to do this very carefully. You need to really think of what you say, which I don't think is actually a good thing. But I think in those cases, those subreddits are just moderated by very old-fashioned people that think that they're leaders over some specific niche.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think as well with Reddit, I agree with you. More and more, it's becoming like a real good place to build authority for search, whether it's AI powered search or whether it's search in its traditional
Um,
sense, or if it's search with AI snippets. I guess um, that's all
um,
available. I mean, the other things with Reddit as well is as a community platform to start discussions and to share your experiences and discuss experiences of different products, services, providers, things like that. It's really good for getting some like brand awareness out there.
yeah,
Obviously, I know a lot of subreddits are very strict on promotion, so you have to be very careful in how you do it, and you shouldn't be trying to misuse the platforms. But if you do it in a responsible way, I think it's good. The challenge I've always found historically with using Reddit as a marketing tool is that attribution is really difficult. And this is because I think
mhm.
people are very used to the world of lead generation. They're saying, okay, well, if you're going to go and talk to some people, I want to know how many of those people click through onto my website. And then I want to know how many of them actually went through and bought a product. I want like full end to end attribution. And I guess that's not possible really with Reddit. Um,
I I
yeah.
think it is because I think, but with their like some of their pro plans, I think now they're the platform is transforming a bit, and they've realized that a lot of businesses are coming to the platform because they want to bring value. And now I think Reddit is starting to focus more on what they can offer to businesses. So not to turn this platform into a self-promotional
Yeah.
fetching thing, and they're trying to offer something to businesses to do this in so the platform won't lose it won't lose its original purpose to being a
Yeah.
place where people don't sell, but rather express what they think, share their knowledge, and just bring this real value into conversations.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to change, and this is just something I have this gut feeling that um, more and more businesses will start turning to Reddit to talk about their solutions and products. It's already happening, um, and I think there will be some sort of more advanced analytics on this platform too. Because if we will take a look at Quora, for example, they have this. You can look at the stats there, and Reddit has some basic ways to to see how what you've written is performing. But this is a very like subjective thing because it's very uh, relied on how people tolerate your content, I would say, because those upvotes and downvotes, they are very subjective. They don't reflect the, I would say, anything. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is gonna change in the future too.
Yeah, that's interesting, and yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes I wonder on Reddit. I've posted something which I feel is like genuinely helpful and really answered a question, has not been promotional, and has been very, in my opinion, helpful. And then it starts getting downvoted like crazy. And then you see some people and some other posts that I've made where you've just managed to catch some idea or
Yeah,
something in the public consciousness, and
yeah.
there you go, 1,000 upvotes. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it,
I
it,
call it
it
just luck, because it's like it's just so, um it resonates with the real life. Sometimes you expect something, you did something and you expect that this will be a boom, this is it, and then nothing really happens, and you're some kind of disappointed. And with the Reddit, the same way, sometimes you write something really good, you share a cool tip, something that you find really, really valuable, and nobody upvotes
Yeah.
this. But sometimes it's just you wrote something, and past got really popular, and then blew
Yeah.
a lot of votes.
It's crazy, and I think I guess the good thing is, I mean, in fractional teams, we've obviously been doing this for the last couple of years, and I'm starting to see more and more people now on LinkedIn trying to offer this service and trying to say, "Hey, remember Reddit? Well, it's now really important for business." And I guess our point and your point as well is that it's been pretty important for the last couple of years. Really, I think just a lot of people have overlooked it. We've worked with a few clients, particularly who've been very receptive to this as a channel, especially in the tech B2B space. I think because there's a lot of tech people historically have been on Reddit, and I think as well there's a lot of people who work for organizations who might not be the final decision maker, or they might not have the budget sign off, but they're the people that influence and sometimes tell the decision maker what they should do, or advise on the best choice of technology, product, platform, whatever it happens to be. So it's a marketing channel, particularly for tech B2B businesses, that I guess no one should really overlook. I guess. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, and I think I'm very convinced that we will see more and more businesses going on Reddit and start talking about the solutions and their products. But I think the major point here is that you always need to remember that you need to create more value than you capture on such platforms. Otherwise, you'll just end up being banned there.
Yeah,
Like
that's
a,
important.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
this is very tricky. You need to just to keep in mind that this is not a traditional marketing
yeah,
channel. You just can't do things there you would do in other um, more made for marketing platforms.
yeah. Like cold email and things like that. It's not. You could never get away with cold email techniques in Reddit. I think they're two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. I think, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, I think we even both know this one company that we're trying to obviously pitch people in the comments and leaving their the sales representatives numbers and things like that, and ended up being like banned. And I think the moderator even devoted the whole post to the company and
Yeah.
to the people, to people that represent this company. So
That's
yeah.
it. They got called out, put on the naughty step, as they say. It's kind of yeah. No, that's interesting. No, it's great because I think if you go in there with the right intention and the intention, like you
Mhm.
just said, I think that was a really important thing for people to remember. What you said earlier about giving more value than you take away, and if you go in with that intention and follow through on that, I think that sounds like you'll get a good result out of Reddit. Just obviously, I know every product, company, service is different, but what are some things that you find work in places like Reddit or even Quora? Without wanting to give away all of the secrets, maybe just one or two examples.
I think the coolest thing about those platforms is that writing is free, and you don't need to have crazy budget to do anything there. And the content you leave there, your thoughts, they bring you value in a very long term. It's like with articles, it doesn't even work that way with the articles because people don't really. I would say it gets outdated very fast. And then in when you search for something on Reddit, for example, or Quora, people can see your posts, which you have written, for example, 6 years ago, and it still will be relevant. And then they still will go into comments and come back to you saying something. Sorry, I know this was written so long ago, but this like I have the same situation, and this is, I think, this is a cool tool because those conversations, they stay there and they bring your brand attention even in years. So this is something that stays there and bring you value constantly.
So
And I
it's
think
keep
that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it is. It's really good, and I guess that's about like you said, sort of keeping it short, so not like lots of long form articles.
Mhm.
Won't be able to extract the information.
Yeah.
Keep it really concise, meaningful, I suppose, and something that really tells someone something interesting or answers a question, maybe as well in a relatively concise way. And I guess that just comes back to who you're um, who you're talking to, and those people are generally coming to Reddit or Quora or um, ChatGPT or Google or wherever with a question or with a need in mind. I need to know something. I need to find
Yeah.
something. I need to do something. It's always with some need in mind. They don't just generally go there because they're bored and they say, "Oh, tell me something I don't know." you know, generically, it's always with a particular need in mind. So I suppose, yeah, you're right, and it's interesting. I had that there was a question I was answering for one of our clients the other day, and I was about to write like a full explanation of a particular thing. I won't go into too much detail, but I just remembered a Reddit post that I read once.
Mhm.
It was about 6 years old, and I said, "Look, this is an old post, but actually, this will save me writing what I would have otherwise written to you." And here's what it is. And I just sent them the thread, and actually, I think they read it, and it made sense, and they said, "Yeah, okay." It's obviously there's more people than just you saying that. It adds to your proof. It adds to your authority on a subject as well. I guess if you're showing that you can present evidence from a place like Reddit, where you have other professionals who have real life world experiences, and present that information back.
Yep.
Um, and I guess that's also the point about building authority, and maybe why Reddit has been used by some of these LLMs. So Perplexity. I mean, it's often said. I think Perplexity got a lot of um, discrediting, I think, at one point, because people were
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, Perplexity is just built on Reddit,"
Uh-huh.
and it is, but it's not only Reddit, I guess, is the point. But actually, even if it was just built on Reddit, is that a particularly bad thing?
No, I don't think so. Because even uh, if we will take featured snippets where I think every brand want to be for featured snippets for some of the queries, and I think we get a lot of Reddit answers there. Often when we have something specific to ask, we often get answers either from those uh either from Quora or Reddit, and it actually sometimes it it doesn't harm brands, but those are often zero click kind of searches where people are not actually so they type something in the search string, and they get a result, and they don't even need to go down and see all those top 10 search results. They just get the answer from the top, which I think was the main idea of feature snippets
Yeah.
back in the days. And now with all those AI overviews too,
Yeah.
and the majority of the answers, I think they come from for as such as Reddit and Core and things like that.
That's interesting, and I think it's like it's going to become a problem. I think for marketers or people who run businesses who ask the marketing team for very exact attribution as well, because of course, if no one's clicking anything,
Yeah.
your concept of click through is gone. Impressions obviously are there, and you're able to find out if if someone has seen your content, and you're able to also search yourself, and you're able to see, is my content getting ranked? Is it appearing in the AI results, and is it also getting ranked in the traditional SERP? So I guess, yeah, it's about making sure that people can realize the value of that content, and not just go out and paste more and more AI copy that it just that the AI is going to read it and say, "What's new here? How does
Yeah.
this relate to what this person has asked me as a question?" So maybe the point is, perhaps we're moving into a world where we want to get even more niche in terms of or writing. So maybe we want to create more content about more niche subjects so that we can try and capture as many people as we can who are asking those questions, really getting into verticalization, really getting into particular products, technology, services, how to use services, really trying to think of all the different ways someone will interact with either the AI and the AI tools, or indeed the search engine.
Um, I think even the point that um, I personally enjoy articles uh, that are written in early 2000s and before AI tells so much about how we actually enjoy things that were written for humans
Mm.
and by humans. And I think AI it's not bad. There's nothing bad about using AI tools, but you just need to keep this balance. You need to realize that you can automate certain things, but you can automate the tone, your tone and voice, and your thoughts. You need to make this work together. You can get faster results, but to keep the quality and keep this content really keep the quality of this content, you need to maintain this balance. I think
Yeah,
it's really important.
yeah, no, I agree, and you can almost imagine, some people are using the AI as like a replacement for their ideas and their personality, I suppose, as well. It's like, you're kind of saying, uh, chat gpt, give me a personality, and make that shine through in my writing. And yeah, we can give it instructions about tone and voice and things like that, and of course we can feed it with ideas. But if we don't have the ideas to begin with, and if chat gpt doesn't have a grounding in a new idea, because it's a new idea, and because it's something that hasn't existed yet, it's really interesting. You can see, as you have new ideas where maybe there isn't a lot of content, or it's a very recent idea that you're wanting to write about, and ChatGPT fails quite badly, and it mixes things up, and it hallucinates, and all these types of things. It's not able to write coherently and in a entertaining way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's going to improve over time, as the LLMs become more up to date, with more topical information,
Yeah.
rather than relying on old information. And as they start to develop, or as they start to build capabilities around writing in personalities, um, I think that's going to improve. But you can sort of see what happened with the Grok AI, and
Yeah.
how this is an AI that's just been programmed to be a bit snarky. It's kind of
Mhm.
its kind of way of you can sort of see, let's be edgy, like our
Mhm.
create, you know, and try to make that come through in our responses. But obviously you can influence that with most AI platforms as well. But yeah, so I agree with you. It's about using it to support your work. And many copywriters out there are now saying that AI is useful. It is helping me to do my work when I need to do something that doesn't require personality, independent thoughts, where it needs to be very factual, very formal, and all of those things. Things where it actually works better than a human, because it's able to look beyond personal bias and things like that. It's great, but where you want to, I think you said earlier on, where you want to read something and be entertained by it. And if you're finding that's in articles back in the 2000s, I think
Yeah.
that's a sign of our times.
Yeah.
But I would say, in terms of going forwards, things are changing really quickly. So it's impossible to say what marketing is going to look like in 1 year, never mind 5 or 10 years. But if you wanted to give some advice to a marketer or a business owner,
Mhm.
who really, they might not have a huge budget, right? It might be a startup. It might be like a bootstrap kind of startup where they don't have a lot of money. They haven't got like seed funding to invest thousands or even millions in marketing. They want to get out there and try to build some authority. What types of things would you recommend they could do?
I would say that I think startups and new businesses, they're so focused on this thought that if thing is free, if if this seems to be good to be true, it it actually is. But I think to start things, you don't need to have a huge crazy budget. There is so many things you can actually do for free, including posting in Reddit, including some of those old traditional link building tactics. Even a lot of people say that guest blogging is dead. Which, by the way, I recently saw that Harrow sold, or I think their platform was bought by
Yeah.
someone else, which is a shame. I think I don't know if they keep 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 the original idea of the platform.
I think they have, because I think it was Scythian, wasn't it, that bought Harrow, and
Mhm, mhm.
they're historically like a PR type
With a
organization, aren't they? And they do like news wires and all those types of things. So I guess it kind of made sense. They still do have an offering,
Mhm.
but it's certainly, I don't think it's what Harrow was, but
Yeah.
it's not. It hasn't disappeared, I would say.
So in some ways, those platform are not that popular as they used to be years ago, and that's okay because things are changing, and you just can't escape this. But I still think that blogging is working. That link exchange is working. I think listing your product in directories is working definitely, especially if you're a startup. This is one of the best ways to raise your website authority like quickly if you want to do this. Posting and such platforms as Reddit, Quora, sharing your knowledge, bringing value, definitely working, and writing. content that brings value, that says a lot about your brand, that is raising your brand awareness, is something that is working, and it won't stop working in the coming years. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, that's great. It's got that long tail. So invest in the organic, the things that will last, not just on quick hit
Yep.
PPC campaigns and things like that. It's about, yeah, and that's interesting about directory listings and all of these things as well, which are things that I think they are time consuming. So I guess there isn't a huge budget requirement. Like you don't need to pay for a lot of ad spend. You don't need to pay for a huge amount of copy, for
Yep.
example, an agency or from a copywriter and an independent one. But you do need to take the time. So maybe for a founder, what they need to do is to partner
Yeah.
with maybe a consultant or maybe like an organization that can do this on a more fractional basis. And that sounds like I'm pitching for fractional teams. But what I mean is that, this is not something where you probably need like a full-time marketer in every discipline. You
Yep.
need someone who can just write for different platforms. And I guess write in an entertaining way. Someone who can understand your product, I guess, is probably an important thing, your product or your service and really getting out there. And yeah, those are great pieces of advice. Get out there, do some posting, do some link exchange and directory listing and Reddit as well. Getting on there and having conversations with people. And I would also maybe add my own perspective on this from a product side, which is that Reddit is also a great place to learn about how people are using your product. So you get to learn, what are the things that are missing? What are people asking for? It's not quantitative research, but it's qualitative research. And I think that's like a really great thing to have. So you get like a double benefit particularly for a tech business that's, able to develop its own product and improve it over time. They can use those platforms and make it like a bi-directional thing rather than just going out there and broadcasting.
Plus, I think a lot of those product companies don't even realize they have a subreddit, which was created by someone who wanted to help other people, and just to create a space for other people to get answers. That we can see that working quite well for companies in telecommunications, where people are looking for solutions to some issues. They probably don't want to, it's not a big deal, and they don't want to go and actually um send a request to support, for example, on the website, because that might be time consuming, and they just go to Reddit instead and look it up and get the answer really fast. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's even so you've got kind of everything there: user generated content, user generated support. Uh,
Yeah.
you could then products roadmap information. Really, it's kind of it sounds like we're doing a ad campaign for Reddit here, but I guess it's not just Reddit. I suppose there's also the other point. You mentioned about third party directory platforms. There's other forums as well. And I think it's just really important to get out there, find those places, find those niches where people are talking, drive some awareness. If you're a small startup as well, it's very difficult to start trying to compete with the bigger players, and you shouldn't necessarily try to compete. But finding some niches, um, making the most of those niches and then expanding from them and building that sustainable growth. I think from an overall business perspective, I think is definitely the way to go. And I think you as a small business will often serve a niche better and more profitably than a big business can serve hundreds of niches, across the entire industry. So yeah, I think it's good advice. So uh, thank you, Daria, for that. It's been really good conversation, and the time has flown by. So I'd like to really thank you for your insights there, and certainly we'll keep an eye out for your advice on LinkedIn. Of course, Reddit is often an anonymous platform, so we won't often know who you are on Reddit, but we'll at least be able to find you probably on LinkedIn and also some other platforms where you might be sharing your insights. So thanks again, Daria, for taking the time.
Thank you, Tim. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
Great. And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll have another episode of the Grow to Market podcast coming up very soon.